it's Sandra. Really, really nice to see you. Nice. Just gonna tidy up there. Yep. Well, I'm here live with you, and we're back on the topic of asexual dating, which I think is so important. So I had an overnight Skype chat for 9 hours, well, almost 9 hours. It wasn't quite 9 hours. And I met this guy on asexuality.com, and I just really wanted to share with you in this video how it went and basically what you need to look out for when you're dating or having a chat with someone. So basically, we didn't call this a Skype date, we called it a Skype chat because we agreed that in the beginning it's just best to be friends, and we might only ever just be friends, okay? So though we agreed at the beginning that it wasn't a date, that it was a Skype chat, the fact that it went on for almost 9 hours indicates we did like each other a lot, because obviously you don't really Skype that long with someone if you don't get on well with them to a certain extent. Now, when you're Skype dating or Skype chatting, it's really important you use that time to get to know the other person really well, because obviously we're both on a dating site, we've been talking for a while, and even though we say about friendship, you still kind of want to suss the other person out to see whether or not they would be suitable for a possible relationship, especially with the dynamics. So basically, when you're Skype dating, the things you have to look out for are you geographically close to each other or not? So are you going to be within a car's journey or train or bus journey to see that person? You know, is it possible you're ever going to meet up with them in person, in effect? Because that's really super important when you're possibly thinking about a relationship with someone. You then have to consider the fact of personal qualities, like what sort of type of person they are. Are they a joker? Are they romantic? Have they got empathy? Are they a person who expresses sympathy and empathy? Are they an emotional person? Are they an aggressive person? Are they a kind person? So you have to kind of assess their personality qualities. Then other factors, you've got to think about hobbies and interests. Have you got hobbies and interests that would be the same or similar? It doesn't matter if you've got hobbies and interests that are different, but you really want to be looking at whether or not you're compatible in terms of some hobbies and interests. If you've got no hobbies or interests that you share together, that's not going to be any good for a potential relationship, is it? So you just need to forget about that straight away. And then there's a physical compatibility element. So when you're having a Skype chat or Skype date, you need to be thinking of all these elements if you're considering a possible relationship. I mean, some people might go into saying about friendship, but me and him are both heteromantics, and he's on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum, actually. And I know with the type of asexual I am and he is, even though we say friendship, you know, you can kind of be sussing each other out about in terms of potential relationship while you're talking to each other. It's like the unspoken word, yeah, you're not saying it, but you're kind of thinking it at the same time a bit, obviously, from the questions you ask and the way you are with each other. So going back to physicality, now although we're asexual, asexuality is a huge spectrum, all the way from aromantics who don't experience any romantic or sexual attraction but can still have ascetic attraction, for example, to the sort of hetero, biromantics, panromantics, homoromantics in the middle. And then, you know, the people who experience romantic attraction but no sexual attraction. Then you've got sort of the grey A's and the demisexuals. So grey A's and demisexuals come under the more the sexual end of the asexual spectrum. And this is just like, you know, very, very basic. I'm breaking it down for you now. Very basic. There's loads and loads of orientations in between, like demi-romantic, grey romantic, and tons of others as well. So you really have to be breaking it down. And in terms of physicality, you know, like, do you like kissing? Do they like kissing? Do you like touching? Do they like touching? Because even though asexuals might not want physical sexual intercourse, some asexuals do still want physicality. Some want a lot and some want a little. Some want a little bit of like a peck on the cheek, some cuddles. Other people want full-on snogging. Other people want to basically strip down naked, just not have the sex. So it's really important to look at these areas in terms of compatibility. So all the time when you're on the sort of the chat or the date, you need to be assessing the pros and cons of if you were with that person. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's something I do if I have any inkling that I might like the person more than a friend. It's something I automatically do. And it helps because I kind of like constantly asking myself questions in my head, like, do I like this about a person, do I not? Like, if I'm thinking about them as a friend, yeah, it's not so important, some of these qualities. But having said that, some of them are still important, because if your friendship develops and you want to hang out together, then you want to know that you've got some common interests to go and do things to hang out together, right? And if you are, like, say, very different in terms of your asexuality, so this particular guy is a lot more sexual than I am. He does admit he's a grey A. He's got that on his profile, which I thought was absolutely awesome. I like guys really honest, open up front. He's just still discovering his asexuality, and so there's a lot of sort of grey A issues for him. And he talks a lot like a heterosexual some of the time, and his behaviour is very much heterosexual some of the time, even though he doesn't like the sex predominantly, you know? So it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, he's too sexual for me in terms of way he talks sometimes and what he says. But in terms of physicality, in terms of the kissing, the passionate kissing, we're both like on the same page there. So all the time, you know, I was like, so the sort of the pros, if you like, with this guy personally, in terms of potential relationship is, for me, the kissing was a really strong factor. We both experienced high levels of arousal, which was, we could relate to each other really well on that front. It's very difficult when you're asexual to experience high levels of arousal. You know, it's really hard to understand that if you don't experience that at all. And he, you know, on the plus side, he had aesthetically, I was attracted to him. Like, he had short dark hair, he is foreign and clean shaven. I liked all that, and he had a really nice smile, really nice smile, which was really friendly. So, you know, again, aesthetics does play a part in sometimes, and you have to decide if aesthetics is important to you. Some people, they can care less what the person looks like, what gender they are, or even what physicality they have. It's not important, aesthetics. But to other people, it's really important. Now, to me, I couldn't kiss someone or be close to someone that I wasn't aesthetically attracted to. I just couldn't do it. I may be able to give a friend a hug who I'm not aesthetically attracted to, but I couldn't do anything more intimate than that, if you like. So, you know, some of it, and he was an extrovert, which I really related to. He's very young for his age, which a lot of the time, so I could really relate to that. And there is some really, I got on well with him in general. That was some really good qualities. So I was assessing the pros. And he likes, you know, he likes watching movies, some different ones to me. The only thing we were sort of similar on in movies was action, which was great. But the others are different. And going out for meals, so that was really good. And he has been to theme parks in the past, although he went with him and took him round, kind of like. So yeah, so he's open to going to theme parks and stuff like that as well. So I thought that was all good, and he drives, and I can get to where he lives and he can get to where I live. So that is really good, you know. It's great in all those aspects. So when I'm, you know, I was thinking of the cons. So I'm constantly thinking when I'm talking to sorry about the train, I live near a train station. So constantly, you know, thinking in my mind, like, do I like this about him, don't I like this about him? And even as a friend, you know. And the one thing that really red flagged up for me was when I was talking as a con for me, if you like, a sort of weakness as a potential relationship, or even in terms of friendship, that would be difficult for me as well, was the fact that basically he wasn't very sympathetic at all. When I told him about some trauma I was going through in my past, there's no sympathy or empathy from him whatsoever. And that to me is a huge red flag, because if you get in a relationship with someone who's got no empathy and no sympathy, which I felt he didn't, whether I feel that from him later on, because I did speak to him about that. He said, well, I'm on camera, it's hard for me. But yeah, I mean, person who's on camera for nearly 9 hours, they tend to be themselves anyway. Do you know what I mean? Even if they're not consciously aware they're trying to be themselves. But, you know, so it's kind of like, okay, but, you know, give the guy a chance. But my initial impression was that he's not sympathetic or empathetic. And he even, in one of the traumatic experiences I have, which I haven't even revealed in my book, that, you know, he kind of like was trying to look in the perspective of the person who was like abusive in that moment. And so, you know, that wasn't good. He did that. I mean, it was one of the worst things in my mind that he could have done, to be honest. Show me no sympathy, no empathy, and tried to get into the mind of the person that did it. But then he kind of got part of it wrong about who they were anyway. This guy wasn't British that did something to me. So, you know, and he was like, oh, a bit of the British culture. I mean, I don't really care what culture someone comes from or what background. They have a choice of how they behave. I came from a very sort of more conservative background, if you like, in terms of like, and, you know, of keeping things private. And was brought up in a household where my mum, you know, is a traditional housewife. My dad goes out to work. But I'm nothing like that. Just because I was brought up in that environment doesn't mean to say I'm like that. So that was a huge red flag con for me. Even as a friend, I find that hard. I need, in terms of relationship, I definitely need someone who I can emotionally connect with on a deep level. I can't emotionally connect to a guy on that deep level that isn't empathetic and sympathetic. If I'm saying about trauma and they having no feelings for that, that's really hard for me, even as a friend. I'm like, you know, it's not good. It's like, and in terms of a relationship, if you were with someone in a relationship where they had no empathy or sympathy, it's not going to be good, because if you ever got problems and you get emotional upset, they're not going to understand what you're talking about. They're going to just think you're, sorry, oh, she's over emotional. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not going to have that sympathy and empathy for you. And the last thing you want if you're in a relationship and got problems is someone saying or thinking you're over emotional. What you really want is them to turn around and say, okay, you're upset now. How are you, you know, sorry, what is my behaviour doing to make you feel upset? And how can I help the situation? If that person instead is going to you, well, basically proving they don't understand you and basically possibly siding with the person that's causing you the upset. If they cause you upset, then they're going to think they're right in that way, if you know what I mean, potentially, and that you are behaving wrong and irrationally or oversensitive and over emotional. That's potentially what can happen with someone who's not sympathetic or empathetic. And I just can't sort of totally deep emotionally connect with someone like that, and it can be a very dangerous relationship if you're different people in that way. It can be potentially upsetting, emotionally abusive, upsetting, in terms of like, you know, that they don't understand where you're coming from. So they could be quite potentially, they could be potentially not nice to you in that way. Now, I don't know this guy. Maybe he'll turn out to be really, he said he's empathetic towards his female friends, so maybe he'll turn out to be that way. And but he did say he's not as sympathetic as some people, you know. So kind of like, I have to see how it goes, but that's an immediate red flag. And normally I'm kind of right with my instincts for me about these things, but we'll see how it goes, you know. I'm sure I'll keep friends with him anyway. And yeah, you don't totally know a person until you meet them in person, right? So, and also the other cons is he's very into a lot of women, like in the past especially. Although he's asexual, he's very into a lot of women. He loves looking at a lot of women. He's quite women orientated. And for me, I kind of like someone in terms of relationship who's dedicated to me. In terms of friendship, I am not that bothered. I mean, it's kind of like a typical guy. I still, in terms of friends, like guys who necessarily aren't all into women, but I have got some highly sexual online friends in particular, and they do like a lot of women, so I can kind of relate to that. And as a friend, it's not really important, is it? I mean, if he wants to fancy 55,000 women, even if he's asexual, and goes around looking at them, that's fine. I mean, I think if I was with him even as a friend and he kept looking around all the time, it would get a little bit annoying, like it would do with anyone, because it's nice when you're as a friend for them to be into talking to you more, isn't it? But I wouldn't really care, because he's my friend. It's like, sure, go for gold, do what you like. So, you know, so that wasn't, and his job is interesting, that's all I can say. He likes, so that was kind of a pro, and he, and yeah, and he likes travelling somewhat, which I don't, so that was kind of like incompatible there. But I think he was an interesting character to talk to. I think overall we got on really well. I think there was a bit of asexual chemistry there, if I'm honest. I did at some point in the conversation think, oh, he must be a nice person to hug. I felt quite warm to him in that way. So he was really approachable. When I said he's not empathetic and sympathetic towards me, it was weird, because in other ways he had a beautiful smile and was very sort of warm some of the time. So, you know, he had his good qualities. But, so yeah, I came to the conclusion that really there was some chemistry between us, asexual chemistry. I think we were both a bit attracted to each other, probably aesthetically, probably a little bit of maybe arousal way and maybe romantic way. But I think we'll just be friends, and I think we'll have a good friendship where probably we respect each other's differences. But I think in terms of a relationship, probably he wouldn't match my needs, to be honest. I think I would match some of his needs, probably more than my own, in terms of he likes a strong, powerful woman. He likes a career-minded woman, which I am, and he finds that very attractive. So I think that is quite attractive for him. But we're quite different on a lot of things as well, which could cause potential conflict. But I think we've got on really well. I think we could discuss those big issues, like the issues we're different on, and sort of debate them rather than argue with them, which was really a positive thing, I thought. He did invite me out to dinner, which I was really thinking that's really nice. So hugging, I could definitely see me hugging him, actually. Kissing him, yeah, I could even see maybe doing that. And there was one other thing as well. He's older than his profile says, as far as I know. Because I thought he was a certain age. He's actually 5 years older. So he's much older than me than I thought he was, which I don't normally date older guys, but he is young for his age. So that was kind of like, I think it's good when a guy doesn't tell his proper age in the profile, because it like sheds doubt on some of the other stuff that he might say in the future. It's like, well, if you're not telling me the truth on this, what else do you think is okay to not tell the truth on? And also, he's not totally his true authentic self, as in he kind of like worries about what people think more. So he's not openly asexual. I mean, he's only just like coming to terms with it, but he's known for a little while, suspect it for a while. And not everyone is out, but you know, if I was in a relationship with someone, I wouldn't hide the fact. I wouldn't want them to hide the fact they were with me. And I don't date heterosexuals, so just by the fact that that guy was with me, that other people would know that he's asexual if they follow me and stuff. And they would suspect that anyway if we were together, and I want to be on social media together in a couple if I was ever in a relationship with the guy. But I don't see that happening between me and him at all. You know, I don't, and he's not going to come out about him being asexual, maybe not even to his friends, and I don't know if he'd ever be on social media with me. And, you know, so in terms of, I think it's just really going to be a friendship. And that's probably all it's ever going to be. Yeah, I kind of feel some chemistry between us, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And I hope he finds a really good girl for him. I'd like to get to know him a bit better. I had a really nice chat with him. He's very interesting to talk to. And I thought we got on well overall, yeah. And it was overall, it was a nice experience. So yeah, but that's hopefully giving you an idea of the type of areas that you want to be thinking about when you're dating a guy or having a Skype date or a Skype chat, as it were, and when you're on asexual dating sites, which is how I met him. You know, if you're actually ever considering a relationship with him, and even friendship, you know, you need to assess if this person's good for you in a potential relationship, or even good as a friendship. You know, not everyone's going to be suitable for you, and it's really a case of finding out what works for you, what makes you feel good, what you can tolerate, what you can be flexible on what you can open your heart to and think about in terms of being different and letting someone different into your life. Because sometimes having different people in life can be a good thing for us too. We don't all have to be the same, and sometimes it's refreshing to have different people in there. So I hope that's helped you. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please share this video with all your asexual friends or people you think may benefit. Don't forget to subscribe below, and don't forget to hit that bell button so you'll get a notification every time I post a new video or go live. Until next time, embrace your quirky and each other's, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.